So I am live. It's just past 7 o'clock here in Central European time. And welcome, welcome. I just sent an email today reminding everyone that I do these Facebook Lives every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. If I don't do them, I will always let you know. So I'm doing a shorter one today because afterwards at 8 o'clock, so in less than an hour, I'm doing a free webinar tonight. So I'll post a link in the comments here afterwards so you can sign up if you want to learn more about the calming signals approach later tonight. So as you know, I always love to hear where you are. So if you have the time, if you have the opportunity, please introduce yourself in the chat and tell us where you are. I am Lisbeth and I'm the founder of Nordic Dog Trainer, and I am in Norway, in the south of Norway, just outside the capital. I'm in my little house in the woods with my Wilma, who's currently sleeping on the floor. So tonight I wanted to talk about how we can use our body language when we are helping dogs that are in situations where they don't feel safe. So having anxiety or being fearful is quite a common problem with a lot of dogs, unfortunately. And we need to understand how they feel so that we can do whatever we can to help them feel safer. And also, of course, to build confidence. I'm not going to talk about building confidence tonight because that's a huge topic. And I also have some previous lives where I talked about how we can actually build confidence in dogs, how we can help them to build confidence. Because the thing is that if you're fearful, if you're afraid of something, you need to build your confidence. So the more secure you feel, the less afraid, right? Makes sense. So there are many different ways we can do that. What we can't do is quick fix when it comes to this. When it comes to behavior, changing behavior, or even helping dogs that have anxiety or fearful or have a high level of stress, just like with humans, we don't have a quick fix. Not yet, at least. um, so we just need to take the time that it needs, that you need yourself or your dog needs to build confidence and to become less scared and fearful. So if there was a quick fix, I'm sure we all would have, access to it, wanted to have access to it. If it was a magical pill we could take in a week's time, we're all fine, but it doesn't exist yet, at least. So I can see some people in the chat. Silky is here. She's in Austria. Linda in the Netherlands. And we have England as well. Buckinghamshire in England. Thank you for letting me know that you are here in the chat. So, okay, back to tonight's topic, which is how we can help our dogs feel more safe in situations where they are fearful. Because there are things we can do with our body language. So the old-fashioned way of doing this was to train everything. You can't train away fear as such with obedience. That doesn't make any sense. To tell your dog to sit or to do a certain behavior will not make your dog less fearful. It might help you in the situation to feel that you can control the situation by having your dog sit or lay down, whatever you want the dog to do, but just know that it has nothing to do with helping your dog overcoming the fear that it feels in this moment. But what we can do is to learn to observe the calming signals in dogs and the distance increasing signals. They're also called, some people call them stress signals. So stress in this in relation to what I'm talking about tonight is that if we are getting scared, our stress level goes up. It's not something that we decide, it just happens automatically. We have to have some techniques to make that stress go down. For example, if you're afraid of flying, your pulse and your stress hormones will go up when you are on the plane. It's not something you decide to do, it's something that happens automatically. Same thing with your dog in situations where your dog is fearful. And we cannot tell the dog, no, you can't be fearful. No, don't be fearful. This is nothing to be afraid of. This is nothing to worry about. It doesn't make sense. Again, it doesn't make sense. I can talk from my own experience. I have been very afraid of flying. And oh boy, how many people, I don't even know how many people, when I express that I don't like flying, everyone is telling me, but Lisbeth, it's the safest way of, not communication, but transportation. And yes, I know that it's very safe to fly, but I'm still afraid. So that doesn't help. If you try to tell me to do something, Lisbeth, be quiet. Lisbeth, sit down. Lisbeth, you're not allowed to talk. Lisbeth, you're not allowed to shake. You're not allowed to do whatever. It doesn't help my feelings that I'm afraid. It might even make it worse. So we can't reduce anxiety by training obedience with the dog. So what we need to do is we need to recognize, first of all, how your dog is reacting when it's fearful. So you need to know the calming signals that your dog is showing you. It starts with small, subtle signs. Panting also is something that dogs do, not only when they're warm, but also if they get stressed. Blinking softly with their eyes is also a calming signals. Lip licking, turning their head, turning their body. There are many calming signals. So when your dog is in a situation where it's not feeling comfortable, it will tell you by showing multiple calming signals, not only one, but many. And this depends on the situation. There is no, I can't give you like, a booklet which says that you have to tick off all these boxes. This is how your dog reacts. No, because they are individuals. So every dog will react differently. So when you understand when your dog is not feeling good, and I say this with all the experience I have for years. I've been training dogs and their owners, doing different activities, and there is really, unfortunately, a big gap in the knowledge and the skills of knowing our own dog's way of communicating. And when you know it, and you can't go back and not know it. And then you see everything. You see that dogs are constantly communicating with us, trying to tell us something. They show us the calming signals. And when you look at the situation, let's just give you an example. If you're attending some kind of course or activity together with other dogs, and your dog feels a bit uncomfortable or maybe very uncomfortable, it could be because of the other dogs, it could be one of the other dogs. Dogs, they are communicating constantly. They are experts in speaking dog language and calming signals. So if you start observing the other dogs as well, you might even see why your dog is feeling fearful in that situation. And sometimes there are only small things that we can change, that we need to change in the situation. Maybe just increase the distance. Maybe you're too close to another dog and that dog makes your dog feel uncomfortable. It could be loud noises. It could be you. It could be your behavior. Maybe you are stressed. Maybe your voice is kind of harsh and stressed and making the dogs more, maybe not fearful, but uncomfortable, at least uncomfortable. Yawning. So if you see a dog in that kind of situation starting to yawn, yawning would typically a calming signal because your dog is not suddenly getting very tired in a situation like that. So, one thing I do, which I learned years ago from a dear friend of mine, was to act. I don't know if this is the right translation, but I'll try. You know, you all know the what we eat, this syrup. You know, syrup. It's a lot of sugar, and it's kind of, you know, uh, it's like a slow moving consistency in syrup. Okay, so that's why you have to remember syrup. You need to move like syrup, which means this is funny, but it means you need to move slowly. So again, this I'm just talking in general how we can use our body language and not training obedience and commands in these situations, but using our body language to reassure our dogs that they can trust us, that we understand that they're not comfortable, and we can help them in that situation. So step number one is to be syrup. So what you do is slow moving. I have taken in a lot of dogs with behavior problems in my household. So they were living with me. They were not here for training, but they were a part of my family. And some of them were quite nervous when they arrived. So it took nothing for the stress level to rise. And then when you have a multiple dog household, then you don't want the stress level to rise a lot in these situations. You want it to be more calm, cool, calm, and collected. So I needed to be syrup. I needed to not do any sudden movements or, you know, get up very quickly or say something very out loud very abruptly. Just be syrup. And there are other things we can do. Of course, not staring. Staring is rude both in the dog world and in our world. But to look away a little bit, we can mirror their calming signals a bit. Not completely, but some of them we can use. So you can turn your head a little bit to the side. You can, of course, use the hand signal to reassure your dog that this is something I'm taking care of, don't worry, while you might be increasing the distance or just walking away from it all, depending on the situation and your dog and how it feels. So you can also use your upper body to turn a little bit to the side. Whatever you do, your body language should be non-threatening. So this also goes to if you meet a dog that is uncomfortable or even fearful in the situation. You should not be the one making the dog even more anxious. You should help the dog. So if you know a dog, even your own dog, you can curve, for example. That's also a part of our body language. We are going to talk about it tonight, by the way, at the free webinar, which starts soon. And not approaching the dog head on. So all of these things, when you know it, you know it. You need to know the calming signals. You need to know and practice yourself how to behave around dogs. And if you have children, I strongly suggest that you also teach your children to do it. And children, you know, they are great learners. They really want to learn. So you need to be a good teacher to your children so that you can all understand the dog and hence avoid a lot of what we typically call problem behavior, which is behavior that we don't want, but the behavior is caused by something, and sometimes it's what we do. Okay, so slow movements. Also, I just want to end with one more tip about this. A lot of people, we think that we want to reassure the dog that we are not dangerous. So if a dog is a bit hesitant to approach us, we would typically go closer to the dog, maybe bend over, maybe even holding a treat in front of the dog, saying, "Hey, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm a nice person." And everything we do with our body language, everything is a threat to the dog because we are coming closer, we are not curving, we are bending over, we are stretching our hand out towards the dog. We should do the opposite. Let the dog come to you and kind of not totally ignore it like you don't exist, but don't force the dog to come to you, and don't have a staring competition. I know it's very difficult because dogs are beautiful and some of them are very, very cute. So you want to have eye contact with them when you try to reassure them. No, I'm not, dangerous. I'm a nice person. I just want to give you a treat. You don't have to be scared. So everything we do is basically the opposite of what we should have done instead to help the dog in that situation. Um, and so the same thing goes with sitting down actually on the floor. Some of us, we want to sit down on the floor because we want to be at the same level with the dog to prove to the dog even more that, I'm a nice person. But in some instances, this can scare your dog. So it has the opposite effect. And if the owners of the dog, or if you yourself as an owner of this dog, normally do not sit on the floor, this is a whole new situation for the dog. Now you are behaving very different from what you usually do. So sitting down on the floor to be on the same level as the dog, and especially if we start having a kind of a staring competition going on, bending, towards the dog and so on, it has the opposite effect. Actually, there have been some studies that shows that maybe this is just one of many, many maybes, because a lot of dogs are a bit insecure about people, especially strangers, and especially men. But there could be a lot of reasons for that. But one of the studies um, kind of claimed that men are moving in a different way than women. Their walking is more uh, leaned forward when they're walking. And it's not something that our eyes can see instantly, but it's something that the dogs can see much better than us. And that study suggested that maybe this could be one of the elements which makes some dogs more fearful of men. Now, don't go around saying that's the reason, that's the only one. It's probably more reasons, but one of them. Just remember that dogs are experts in reading us because they're so good at reading body language. That's how they communicate. Body language and vocal, of course, with the different noises like barking, whining, and so on. But they are extremely good at noticing the small, subtle signs, and we are not. We are not, and we don't even know about them. So your dog is much better at speaking dog than you are. So with that, I encourage you to learn how to speak your dog's language so that you can more easily help your dog out of situations where they don't feel safe, or are or have an anxiety, or are very fearful, very scared, maybe so scared that they start showing the distance increasing signals like growling and trying to scare away someone or something they feel is a threat to them. So we can avoid so many bad situations with that, for the dog and for us. So it's up to us, really. And to be honest, it is our responsibility, isn't it? Because we are the ones who chose to give them a home. So it's our responsibility to know how to communicate with all members of your family, including the dog. And I don't know why, but I too, before I got to know the calming signals, I too thought that I knew the dog's language. That when the tail was moving or, it was happy. And even what I know now that some dogs, when they're smiling, it's not a sign that they're happy. It's a sign that they are trying to calm someone down, that they're stressed, that they don't feel comfortable in a situation. So we think we know, but we don't. So I'm going to post a link to the webinar that I'm starting in approximately half an hour. Let me read the comments. Let me see if there's any questions as such. So we have people from Greece and the US and Ukraine. Beverly is saying, my little puppy is frightened of people, other dogs. How can I get out? Yeah, like I said, I gave a lot of examples. I think you wrote this a while ago. So yeah, hopefully I gave you some tips on how to do it. So how you can do it individually with your dog. It's not something I can answer on a Facebook Live like that. I have to meet you, preferably in person, you and your dog, and help you observe your dog. And I need a lot more information. So I can't do that during these lives. It's only general questions. Um, I need to know if this video will be available later. Yes, all our Facebook lives, all these lives on Wednesdays, because I'm going using an app called Facebook Live. So they are automatically recorded, all of them. So you can go to media in the menu above here on this Facebook page, click media and then videos, and then they all show up. And I try to make subject lines easy to understand what the subject is for that particular live. I think I have somewhere around 670 or 80 lives by now. Julia is writing, this will be my new mantra while training. Just be syrup. Take it slow. And exactly that's it, what I learned from my friend Kjersti. Kjersti is a very Norwegian name, by the way. Kjersti. It's something that a lot of people can't pronounce. But, and then I learned it now almost 20 years ago. And she was the one who explained it the same way I'm trying to explain to you tonight. So syrup is something we kind of understand. Okay. Thank you, Trish, also for being here tonight. Thank you, everyone. And maybe I see some of you on the webinar that I'm having at 8 o'clock. So that webinar is called the Calming Signals Approach. And this is the third time I'm doing it in August. And I do it 2 more times in September. It's the same webinar. We do it in the European time zone, and twice I'm doing it in the US time zone, which is on a Sunday. And we have ads for it on Facebook. You can't find it on our website, so it will probably just come up in your feed. If you have signed up for our newsletter or any email list, we also always update you on every free event that we have, such as the webinar tonight, which is also being recorded, by the way, so you can watch it later. I know how it is online these days. We want to see everything, but we don't always have the time. So that's why most of what we do, we'll record for you. Have a very nice evening, everyone. I hope to see some of you later tonight if you can, or sign up and get the recording. And then I'll see you next Wednesday here for another topic. I don't know what it's going to be like. I always think of a topic the same day because there's so many to choose from. Have a very nice evening, everyone. Bye.